Hi, Yellow Chair. This is Helen. Today, I have one of probably the most favorite podcast episodes I've ever recorded with Aussie. I wanted to talk to you today because I wanted to provide a trigger warning. We do talk about trauma, sexual violence, domestic violence in this episode, and Aussie gets really vulnerable today about Aussie's trauma, finding Sam, and learning to repair a lot of the trauma Aussie has experienced. And so this is a really special episode for me as someone who grew up in an immigrant family, who felt really alone in their journey. And today we talk about Aussie's journey towards spirituality, finding themselves, and how to heal from things that are really difficult and eventually find a relationship that's right for you. And so I hope you enjoy this episode just as much as I did. And it's an honor to serve you. Let's start the podcast. So, Aussie, I'm going to ask you a really funny warm-up question, but I genuinely want to know. And a therapist at YCC also wants to know. That's not me. But how do you take your eggs?
I'm very particular with my eggs. So that's
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I'm just particular with everything, but I love my eggs running. So not even like, I think I learned the term in the US was like over easy, but not even that. I think it's called sunny side up in the US. So just when I cook it at home, it's just you crack it in there, but you put the lid on to steam the top until the whites become opaque. Then it's done.
I do the same thing.
You
I do
do?
the same thing. My friend who is a chef at a restaurant actually taught me how to do that because I would crack the yolk. And so I spent a summer in Baltimore, and one of my roommates was this guy who would cook fish and eggs together, but he would like use a really big pan and he would cover the pan over, and then the egg would like just bubble up. But like my dad growing up would like crack open the egg because he likes it sunny side up as well. And he would take the oil with his spoon and he would just like splatter the oil. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Oh, yeah, I do know what you're talking about. I've made eggs like that, like paprika eggs like that, where it's like a shitload of paprika, pepper, salt, but you're like, with the oil and you're just pouring the oil on top of the egg. So it's just cooking like that. Yeah, and that's really delicious too. But yeah, yeah, no, I'm into food. So yeah, I love that question.
Yeah, there's something really welcoming about food. And I don't know if your experience is like that growing up in an Asian American family. And I'm sorry, Asian Australian family. So used to saying Asian American. Food for me was always like really like the marker that brought us all together. Is that true for you?
Oh, it's definitely true for me. My mom is probably the best like cook in the world honestly to me anyways. But I do also get that from my extended family saying, "Oh, I remember when your mom, does she have the recipe for that?" And I'm like, "No, she doesn't measure anything. She just knows how to like just put this in and that in." And I mean, she's been cooking since she was young. So and in Burma, she was basically the youngest of all the girls, and then there was like a younger brother underneath her. So I think there was like maybe 6 or 7, and because she was the youngest girl, she wasn't able to go to college, and she was basically brought up to be raised to be an attentive wife, an attentive, know how to sew, cook, clean, all of those things. And then basically arranged marriage off. So, so my parents are arranged marriage. So she knows how to do everything as a wife. And so she's a really good cook, and I really miss her food, actually. That is probably the worst thing about living in the United States is not having my mom's cooking every week. It is
so true.
Comforting.
There's something so, and it's the smell too. Like I know when I cook, my dad is actually growing up in a Filipino American family. My mom is a nurse. And when we immigrated to the United States, she actually got a job first. So my dad actually would stay home. He was like a stay-at-home dad for a little bit. And I remember to this day, like the smell of tofu with spinach and a little bit of like soy sauce and vinegar, like makes me feel like I'm home. And before I talked with you today, I actually made that. And then I made some like oven roasted chicken. And there's something about like context and like smell that just brings you back home. You must miss your mom because you thought about her while we were talking about food.
Well, when I think about food, it automatically goes to my mom because she's just, and I think that's how she shows her love, is to share her cooking. As I think a lot of traditional Asian families, they don't really know how to say I love you. Like my mom's actually, so my mom's never said I love you or even given me a proper hug, like with two hands, two arms around you, like side, like tap. But there was a time in my younger life, like a young adult, where it was like when I came out, basically, like I had a huge fight with my dad, and it was a physical fight. So it made me just want to leave home, and I basically walked out.
Yeah.
And it was a time when I consciously made a decision to repair my relationship with my mom. And I was basing that repair on what I saw around me, which was all my friends growing up. They were Asian friends too, but they at least had such a warmth and a care, and they could talk to their mom about boyfriends and any kind of like friend you were talking to friends about, right?
Yeah.
But that wasn't with me, and I wanted that so much. And so in my like early 20s, I tried to repair that with my mom, and I consciously did the effort of telling her I love you, because I've never, to even say I love you, it was such a really hard, like it was so scary, because you don't know how they're going to react, and you don't even know if you're going to get rejected, and you don't even know if they're going to say like, oh, be quiet, go away, or whatever. So, but it was a period of my life where I made a conscious decision to invite the warmth and invite the love and say those words to my mom. And it was very uncomfortable at first, and I know she didn't know how to react. But after a while, even after I moved here to the United States for work, she also was able to, via text, not in person, she's never said it in person, I love you, but via text, she would say, I miss you, or she would say, I love you, So that I know was me consciously initiating that kind of relationship. But yeah, it's I don't know what we're talking about, but it's just when I think about my mom, I think about her struggles as an immigrant to Australia, and as someone who didn't have the opportunities, and didn't have the luck with my dad, somebody who would be a good father, somebody who would be a good husband. Unfortunately, my dad is not present and very selfish. And that's something that I'm working towards forgiveness. But I know what I saw growing up with my parents, she wasn't treated well. She's treated like a maid, basically. And it's just heartbreaking. So, but at the same time, as I'm doing my trauma recovery work, there's been a lot of enlightenment coming out in terms of the contribution of the abuse. I want to put it in inverted quotes because it's still very hard for me to recognize that it's abuse, because technically it's abuse, but you love that person. You love the caregiver, but what you went through was very tough for a young child. So there's lots of mixed feelings with my mom.
Yeah. It's funny because before I met with you, because this conversation isn't about me, but I feel the need to share this with you.
I love learning about people. So yes, please share.
Yeah. So I went through my own, I'll call it stuff. And I'm in my 20s, and I feel like the reason why I became a therapist was because there were things that I learned in therapy, and I'm still learning in therapy, that I feel like I'm just finding language to. Like, oh, this was abuse, or this relationship was a narcissistic one, or why am I attracted to this type of man, or why does this type of why does this narrative keep popping up for me? And before I met with you, I was actually talking to my own therapist, and I was like, oh, I didn't know that. Like, I love, my favorite podcast to listen to is Armchair Expert with Dax Shepard, and he's an addict. He's an alcoholic, and he also admits to having narcissistic tendencies, and his steps to recovery I tend to gravitate towards. And I was processing this with my therapist, and my therapist went, Helen, I wonder if you can relate to his experience of abuse. And I was like, what are you talking about? Like, I didn't go. I'm normal.
Yes. Yes.
And I can relate to your story because I think that sometimes when we go on this journey of self-discovery, I don't know if you feel this, Aussie, because I don't want to put words into your mouth, but my experience is that the more that I do my therapeutic healing, I find language to things that seemed normal in my childhood. Do you feel that way?
100%. That is actually something that I'm currently realizing and going through is the amount of denial that I had. And there is so many layers to that, protective layers, because the first step to trauma recovery is recognizing, well, with any kind of recovery work, is recognizing that, oh, that is me. I'm an addict. I am codependent. I was abused. I went through, I did go through trauma. That is the first step. So that's where I'm at, where I'm discovering that, oh, wow, I thought that was what everyone went through. I thought that was everyone's reality. I thought that, that's okay. And when you're young, even up to, the time that I left my house, my home, I thought, you want to fit in so much.
Right.
You want to be normal, like you said. You want to not feel like the odd one out. And so you really, make sense of the world in terms of, oh, that was nothing. I can handle that. That's what everyone goes through. We have tough times. And but when you're doing this recovery work, you're lifting all these layers off you. And when you come down to, and that's why trauma-informed therapist is so, so important, because you're not going to, you don't want to re-traumatize yourself. You have someone who specializes in that and is able to walk through that with you, because it is something that you don't even know it's there. You don't even know that's what it was. So it is really, and I think you have, one, you have to be ready. And I think I believe in a higher power. I believe in the universe aligning things for me. So I believe that things kind of lined up for me to get to this point where I'm like, okay, I'm ready to do this uncovering work. So yeah, it is a big first step, but it's a necessary step to, healing. So, I mean, we could talk for hours on how that looks, but, and again, it looks different for everybody. Trauma doesn't have to be just marks on your skin, which there were for me, or sexual abuse, which there was for me. And that's the first time I actually have publicly said that out loud, actually. So
thank you for sharing.
It's a journey. It's a journey, but it's also taking back my power. When I'm able to, obviously doing it in a very, with this, therapy, professional help, and all of those things in place to be able to do that. But it is definitely taking back my power, removing shame. Shame is a big one that I'm working through. It's a big silencer in our, I think in our trauma recovery community. It prevents you from really seeing things for what they are, and you lighten things up, you twist things in your head so that, as a child, that's your coping mechanism, obviously.
Yes.
That becomes maladaptive in adult life and shows up in weird ways, and
I
where
can
it's
relate.
not functioning for you anymore.
Yes.
And so that's when you have to learn to take the baby steps needed to have a healthy and thriving life.
Mm.
Yeah.
So much of what you said, I can see myself in your story. I've learned this just from doing podcast interviews, but even as a therapist, that the specificity of someone's story makes it so universal, where I think every child goes through this, but I think the picture in society is we only paint abuse as anger because anger is socially acceptable. But you have so much empathy for your parents and you have so much empathy for your experience. And yet, as children, and I only learned this later in life from my own therapist and even in going to therapy school, but when you're growing up as a child, your prefrontal cortex isn't fully formed, which is the part of your brain that is in charge of analysis and executive functioning. So when you go through abuse, like sexual, physical, emotional, any and all abuse, as a child, it's easier to hate yourself and it's easier to blame yourself because you can make sense of yourself.
Yeah.
And I went through that too. And I'm still unlearning these patterns of self-hatred that I've picked up in my childhood because of the trauma of what I went through, like financial trauma, watching my parents start over as a child. My parents fought a lot because like my dad felt like he couldn't find a job as a man. And then like my mom was confused that she had to support two children. And so there's just so much like layers that I feel like you're also uncovering in this journey.
Oh, 1,000%. When you talk about financial trauma, that is big time for my family as well. When they migrated from Burma to Australia, my dad, it background with a degree in, he's a doctor.
Yeah, mine
Not that
too.
he, oh, really?
Funny.
but,
Funny, the alignment.
but he didn't practice it, as
Yes,
they
because it didn't
migrated to
translate
Australia.
right.
It didn't translate. They have to, study like a year. Like, there are like the community in Burma when they migrate. You would hear like a doctor coming from Burma, you have to do a year of study and then sit this exam, and then but who's gonna as an immigrant family, who's gonna support the like 3 kids, and so it was like he had to just get a job, any kind of job, and his brother got him a job at a factory, and it's the first time he's ever worked for anybody. Like,
Really?
yeah, like he's always had his own business. Like we had a paper factory in Burma, we were well off. But it's so coming from that kind of environment to with nothing, with no support, and there was no support from family, sending money, which was really organized, but that didn't happen. So he had to work his, for the first time, and he doesn't know the system. He doesn't know, he knows a language at least because he was raised by Catholic nuns, and so they spoke English. But just working in a factory where he was the worker and not the boss, and having an accident happen, like he lost his fingertip, like all of these things, and he was just like, don't want a boss. I want to find something that I can do that's I can afford, so I could be my own boss. Was driving taxis, so he's a taxi driver. Doctor to taxi driver to like business owner to taxi,
and it affects your vision of yourself too, and it can affect your role as a father of like the amount of stress that you put on your children.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think and I don't really know because I haven't had these conversations with him, but I would love to. But I think he just likes to just escape. So he would just work and then just go back home and spend that money, and growing up, it was like having a single mom, like she was the one that stayed, and whatever because she didn't go to college, like she was supposed to be married off to a rich person, like so, and then this person is not really being a dad, or just escaping because of their own issues. So so she really she was the heart of the household, and for clothes and books, buy book, she did everything for us, with very little that she earned. So
what did she do as a job?
Oh, worked in a hotel, like cleaning, like a maid. That was my aunt, who was married to my uncle, got her job at the hotel,
Yeah.
And so, and I think there's this like a feeling that because she didn't go to college, that she is not smart. She's not all of these, mental blocks that she's got about herself, that she doesn't believe that she can, get a degree and have a better job, or I don't think, and also being married to my dad, who's not supportive, like I would imagine someone doesn't have very big self-esteem and can't feel like she's just stuck in that situation forever. So that was the household I grew up in, very chaotic, very, before Australia, even violent, because, because my dad, that was normal. If you get in a
There was
fight,
domestic violence.
Yeah. So, and I don't, like, until I started doing my trauma recovery work, I didn't know that was like not okay. I didn't know that was not okay for a young child to be
What
around.
was that like for you to realize that as an adult, to like put language to it, to know
A
that
lot
that
of
was abuse?
grief.
Yeah.
A lot of grief around, well, I'll tell you this. There was someone I dated just before Sam, actually, who was a child therapist.
Yeah.
And I went on a trip, like a weekend away with her, and she was on the phone with her kids because they would call in before bed or something. And so I just hid in the bathroom because I didn't want to interrupt. And it wasn't like he wasn't ready to introduce me or anything like that.
Sure.
So, it was like at the beginning.
Yeah.
But I could hear the conversation over, in the other room. And the way that she talked to her son and her daughter, like just lovely. Like like my friends have kids, so lovely, just loving parents. And then the youngest daughter was just screaming, like out of nowhere. She was fine one minute, as kids do. Next minute, she's like upset and just screaming, and she allowed that to happen. And then she like handled it. And then I had never, I've never heard of, kind of seen this kind of parenting before. And then she put them to bed. And then I came out and I had this, I just like plopped onto the bed, and I said, and then I was like, I started crying, and I said, I don't know why, but I'm so sad. And she goes, it's okay. You never got that from your parents. So that's why you're feeling the way you're feeling. And it made so much sense. And that was the first time, I think, this is before my trauma recovery work, that was the first time I actually put like a little light bulb went off about my upbringing. Like, oh, I'm sad because I never got that kind of parenting. It didn't, never would have took two and two together until I witnessed it, and actually had reaction to it. So,
yeah. Can I tell you a similar story I had too?
Yeah.
My best friend, her name is Caitlin. She's married to this wonderful, wonderful man, and they both come from like really great families. And my parents both worked 3 jobs. They were always so busy that how are you was never a topic of conversation. How me and my sister were doing, like we never got the attention until we got like all A's in school, until we got like a really great grade. My mom would brag to her friends and say like, my daughter is the valedictorian. And my best friend, Caitlin, her mom is named Bling. I call her Tita Bling. And she was washing the dishes after the wedding, and we were all of us friends were just like at Daniel's house, just like hanging out. And Blaine comes up to me and she goes, "Hi, Helen, how are you, honey?" And I go, "I'm good, Tita, how are you?" And she goes, "Do you have a second? I haven't talked to you in a while and I want to know how you're doing. Like I genuinely have missed you." And she like touches my arm and she's like, "Do you have a second? Like I'd love to speak to you for about an hour if you have the time." And it was so sweet and so calm and just so lovely. And my mom had never done that to me. And I remember also crying and going, "Is this what it feels like to be cared for?" You know? I I'm I guess like my mind immediately goes to like your healing around romantic relationships, because I've learned in my own work and even working with others that intimacy with a parent really does affect your ability to relate in a romantic relationship and like the thoughts that you have around that. So I'd love
Oh,
to learn that from
oh,
you, Aussie.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think I learned a lot on that correlation
Yeah.
in the relationship I had when I first moved to the United States, actually. And I
Mm,
thought they were the one I was going to marry. You know,
really?
yeah.
Boy, oh boy.
And yes, yeah.
We all
And
have those.
why-
Yeah.
and that's when those relational things started popping up. And
Mm,
so actually, I'm anxiously attached. That's where I
hmm.
learned, because I went to therapy. I was like, well, all these things are happening, and I'm willing to do the work. Like I want to improve, because I know this is a person I want to be with forever.
Yeah.
And so that's where I had the most growth and progress the first time, in seeing a
Mm,
mental health professional,
hmm.
where I learned attachment styles. And I'm anxiously attached, as I said. And that's when it just, so much of the stuff that I was feeling on the inside in our interaction made so much sense. And
Mm,
it, the end of that relationship, at the end of that relationship, I was like, okay, I gotta pause here, because I really thought that was the one. I have to do an inventory of all of my relationships, and I have to really look at myself, because I don't want this pattern to keep happening, because I notice a pattern. I
mm,
notice that I keep getting attracted to the people who are not emotionally available, or
mm,
like, basically avoidant attachments were the ones I
mhm.
would find attractive, very, very attractive. Because of my someone
We
primary
laugh because we
caregiver.
know people. We're laughing
Yeah.
because we can relate, okay? Whether we're not making fun or pointing at fingers, just
No.
so y'all in the mean YouTube comments can relate to us, okay?
Yes, exactly,
Yeah.
Helen. Like, it's because of the things that I didn't get met in my early attachment development.
Mm,
I craved that. I craved somebody that was not consistently going to give me what I needed, because they were their own response. Their, being an avoidant attached style. Their own response was, acting cool, acting distant, when it
oh,
comes to heavy emotions. Because as anxiously attached person, when there's heavy emotions inside,
yes.
I'm like needing rescue. Help me here. I can't do this on my own. I can't self-regulate. I don't know how to do this thing. I need you to
Uh-huh.
do it for me. So them being so cool and offhanded seemed very attractive. Oh, they got their shit together. They know how to self-regulate. Unconsciously, of course, you're doing this. So yeah, you are looking for your, basically the attachment style that your parents informed you with their upbringing and their own uh, inconsistent way of giving you what you needed, because of their own stuff that they're working through,
Mm,
that they don't even know it's there. It's like generational stuff. And I'm even looking at that stuff now, like up to my grandparents, where,
mhm.
how were they raised? Like my grandma, on my maternal side, my mom's mom, was dumped on the roadside, during World War II. So she
Really?
was adopted by a family. Thank God they were loving, but
Mhm,
that trauma is passed on to my mom,
mhm.
like, but the thing was, it's that grandmother who was so loving to me that I think I learned how to love and have a feeling of security through her taking care of me for like a few years when my mom first had me, because she couldn't handle when my brother was born. So I got sent off to my grandmother to live with her for a while, and she gave me all the love that I needed, thank goodness. But there was obviously, now I'm thinking back, like, okay, I was quite young when I was, removed from my mom. That must have done something.
Right.
And then what I do remember was being a few years, like less than 5 years old, having to come back from my grandmother to live with my own family, who now is strangers to me. And I remember being so sad and so upset and sitting outside, like craving my grandmother and crying. And my dad comes outside and he's like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, pretending I was okay and like, "Oh, and I go back inside, but I was missing my grandma."
Yeah.
So there was just so much attachment bonds in my early childhood that I know I'm unraveling that right now with, my relationship with Sam, how that shows up. So I know that for the first time, though, when I met Sam, I promised myself, because I did all that inventory work. Why do I keep attracting avoidant attachment styles? So I was like, you know what? I'm going to do the opposite. I'm not going to date people that I get attracted to, like in
That's
that way.
crazy.
Yeah, I did the opposite. I'm like, I'm going to date someone more like me. And that's when Sam came into my life.
Really?
And she is more like me in terms of being emotionally available, being able to talk about deep feelings, and someone who I think is more securely, I know is more securely attached than me, based on her upbringing. So is able to hold space when I have big feelings. And because of my past relational work that I did with my therapist, self-regulation when things come up, having knowing that this is my emotions, and differentiating when it's their emotions. That's really very difficult for me to do. But it's something that I have to be very conscious of, when we're having any disagreements or anything that's not an easy conversation to have. So
Aussie, I feel like I've never heard anyone put it so articulately, like how anxious attachment styles get attracted to avoidant attachment styles. I do want to know one thing though, because like most people from the blogs you read or the articles that you watch or experience or the shows, people automatically go, I'm done with this pattern. Now I'm happy and I found someone that's like the love of my life and we're good. And so tell me about the messy middle of being by yourself, doing the work, self-regulation. How did you know that Sam was more securely attached, emotionally available? Like for people that are in that space, that have been through immigration trauma, domestic violence, abuse, and are looking for a partner, like what steps did you take from your own personal that allowed you to find a partner that you feel more securely attached to?
Well, for me, I recognized that I needed a relationship, needed it. I couldn't be single. Like I felt I was always looking for the next person, there was like an insatiable
Hunger.
need to be in relationships. And I think some might even coin it to be addicted to love, right? So I recognize that in myself. And so I cut that off first. I'm not going to be, I'm going to be on my own and do this personal work and dig deep and all of that. So I didn't date for years. And eventually when you start healing, you start recognizing. And for me, there was a point in time, and I still remember it. And I tell this to Sam all the time. It was I was going to do that A's ride from San Francisco to LA, and there was like a bike workshop. And so that was in like downtown, well, somewhere in West LA. So I was driving home from that workshop, and it was 10:30 at night. And I had, been single, and I was driving home late at night, and I was going home to an empty apartment. And it was the first time in my life that I noticed in myself that I wasn't sad, and I wasn't like missing, like feeling of no one's home waiting for me, or like I'm not going home to anyone. It's not that I've always had relationships consecutively and not had any breaks, but there was always this feeling of like missing something. And that was the first time driving home when I didn't feel like I was actually okay going home to an empty house, So that's when I recognized that, this is working. Like I'm healing. I'm not needing someone to be there. I'm not needing anyone to be in my life. I'm okay being on my own. And so that has been something that I always try to keep, like keep alive and make sure that I'm working on that part of me, because I think as an anxiously attached person, that's something that you need this external person to help you regulate yourself. You need the validation. You need the the soothing. You never learn to self-soothe. You never learned that modeled for you from an inconsistent caregiver. They were inconsistent with you. So to learn to be on your own, to learn to manage your emotions when they are big, when they, why am I missing this person? Why do I need to be in a relationship? Why can't I, asking those questions of your own and doing a self-inquiry is where I was able to go, oh, that is a key point for me. And knowing that, once you know that, I was still, single for a while, but you know what? The universe just puts people in your life.
Yes.
Like you don't even have to try. You don't even have to look for them. The universe puts the next right person in front of your path, and you just come across them. And then it's, like it's the next self-discovery of your relational journey, your relational healing journey with that person. And so I see all of my relationships as something that helped me so much along that self-healing journey. And Sam, like I said, was someone that I had, like, I'm quite spiritual. So I was attracting my conscious partner, but I wasn't needing them to be there. And the whole time I was single for like 3 years or 3.5 years or whatever it was.
That's awesome.
A long time.
Yeah.
But the thing was, I was okay with not having a partner. And I knew that my understanding was, guess what? That right person is on their way to me. I'm on their way to them. And right now, right here is me being my best self, so that when we do come together, guess what happens? The magic happens. You're both helping each other heal on your own stuff. You're not relying on the other person to help you, fill a void of some sort. So you're whole. You're both whole, and then you're coming together whole, and that creates magic. So I think, knowing if you are anxiously inclined, knowing that if you know that about yourself, to be able to work on being okay with being on your own was key to my finding Sam. Someone more securely attached.
Someone more securely attached. I'm thinking about, because obviously I interviewed Sam, and Sam was also in a place of spiritual growth and spiritual healing. And so when you talked about, because I remember her story and I remember your story, Aussie, and how both of you met at a time when you were both consciously wanting to heal. And it's fascinating how I was actually watching, have you heard of Andrew Huberman from Stanford?
Yes, I do.
He actually talks about how he just became a spiritual person like a couple of days ago, how his and he's very vulnerable about this. I'll put the link. I'll send you a link actually to it, but he talks about how he prays every morning now because he's realizing that there are things that are beyond what what you can know cognitively and do productively, and even in your career, that like prayer is an act of surrender. It's been around in recovery spaces. It's also around in therapy spaces as well. And like religion and prayer and spiritual practices have been shown to actually help people release some of their anxiety of having to figure it out. And so Sam talked about this in her podcast episode as well. I'd love to hear your story around spirituality and how you found your way to believing in a higher power. Have you always believed in a higher power? And how is that helping you now in your recovery?
Yeah. Well, I was raised Catholic. So, so my mom is Buddhist and then my dad's side is Catholic. And so when my mom had to marry my dad, she had to convert.
Converted.
Yeah. But she didn't stop going to the temple. And I remember, but I remember
Covertly, just sneaking her way.
Yeah. And this is so funny because I remember as a child being raised Catholic, condemning my mom for doing that and going,
really?
Yeah, feeling like you can't do that. That's wrong. Because you're not when you're Catholic, you can't be any other thing, right? So I was raised in that environment where I was condemning my mom going to temple. But as I began to kind of form my own thoughts and, become a young, adult, about 15 or 16, when I was like, wait, all of these issues, like, birth control and, abortion and all these kinds of LGBT stuff, right?
Right.
Why is that? Why are certain people ostracized? Why is that condemned evil? And even then, I wasn't really understanding my own sexuality, even though I knew it since I was a very young age. But it was very suppressed, and because you're not allowed to be, right? So denied. So as I got older, I started feeling like this is wrong. Why the teachings, the doctrine are so wrong? And when I left home, when I was very angry with the world, when I came out and I had a big thing with my dad, I had so much anger in me. I hated the world. I hated God. I hated God. So I turned away from God till 2011 when I was actually coming home to renew my visa for the US. And it was the first time I was going to be under my parents' roof since I left home at 19.
How old were you at that point? 2011?
Well, 2011. How old was I? Like 33 or something like that.
That's a long time.
Something like that was a long time.
Yeah.
So when the therapist that I said I had a lot of progress with, she had the way with all to know to give me some audiobooks. And so I had no idea, but I look back and I go, wow, she knew what she was doing and she was awesome. Right. But she gave me these audiobooks, and I was one day, I didn't have a car, so I was just catching a bus to the, city center. And I put one of these books in my ear, and 10 minutes into it, it was a Dr. Wayne Dyer book called Inspiration.
Love him.
I love him.
Which book? Which book was it?
Inspiration.
Oh, I haven't read that one.
Yeah. I think that was one of his first earlier ones.
Inspiration it's called?
Inspiration. Yeah. And so 10 minutes into the audiobook, he says the word God. And I was just like, what the crap is this shit? Like, what you trying to brainwash me with this Jesus stuff? What the heck? So I was like, I'm not going to listen to this. And then it's so funny because that night I was at home and my mom just emotionally dumped on me like she normally does. But it was the first time I seen her in person in a long time. And so it was not my dad. And the next morning I was like, I'm not feeling, me being very unaware at that point. I'm not feeling that good. I'm going to go work out like I normally do. I'll feel better. I'll go have a workout, come home, and I'm eating lunch, and I'm like, I'm feeling really crappy. Like, I don't know why. Oh, I'll go have a nap. Go have a nap. I'm in my room, and all of a sudden, I just felt this, like, depth of sadness come out of me. I was crying, I'm bawling, and I don't even know why. And then all of a sudden, I heard in this inaudible voice say 3 times, everything's going to be okay. Everything's going to be okay. It's going to be okay.
That's
and as
awesome.
soon as I heard that, and again, being Asian, very superstitious, scared of ghosts, but there was no fear in me at all when I initially heard this voice, and it was just like this immense peace, immense like love, immense like security flow from my head to my toe.
Whoa.
It was crazy. And I wasn't scared. Like, and then I was like, what the fuck was that? Like, what the fuck was that? And I thought, is that God? And that's when I put my hands back and I listened to inspiration. Dr. Wayne Dyer was my first teacher, my first, like my dad figure, right? Like it was the first time I heard those kind of concepts about yourself, your way you can be in the world, you know, all of those things made sense. And it was so powerful that I went on this journey of just ferociously reading, consuming anything from Buddhism to you know, to any kind of religion, just wanting to learn what is God, what does that mean, and in spirituality. And again, I thank my therapist at the time, and I went to my first it's called what is it? It's a non-denominational Science of Mind. Science of Mind was there's lots of locations in LA.
Is it like an interdisciplinary, like religious place? Yeah, I've heard of places like that. Yeah.
Yes, very
They had that in my college where I went to school.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah. I am forgetting the name of the person, and I'm sorry, like I forgetting the name of the person. I used to get their like their monthly newsletters and everything like that. But it was the first time where I had heard of these ideas of, you know, self-empowerment. You can create your own reality. Your, you know, just empowerment, basically, like you have control over your life.
Yes. Yes.
And love is what makes the world go round, basically, you know, and I started applying that. I started learning. I started consuming all sorts of content, and near-death experiences are great teachings for me of how to live life. You know, so how, like, and it was like I'm science background, so the tying of proof of the non-physical or the spiritual.
Yes.
And so when you mentioned what is his name, Huberman,
Andrew Huberman,
like,
yes.
Yes. For him to say that, that's cool. That's so that I'm going to be listening to that episode.
I'll send it to you. It's like a 15-minute clip of Lex Friedman, who is a physicist at MIT, asking him, what is your morning routine? And he turns blood red and he starts looking away and he's like, I'm not preaching at anyone. I'm not telling anyone to believe anything, but this is just my experience. And he's like, I'm a teacher at Stanford. I am like, I get sunlight. I do my laundry. I'm a really great big brother or little brother, I forget. But he goes, but there are just some things that I can't fix about myself. And I really need to pray. And he says this too, that even atheists can pray also. And I think that there's something so beautiful about being in a posture of surrender, and like it changes your body. Like for me, I'm a Christian. I believe in a God, and I think that in a lot of ways, being able to surrender to God and to a higher power allows you to walk in a posture that allows you to love people. Because like you said, love is such a powerful experience when you're able to just look at someone eye to eye and say, you know, everyone has a battle we don't know about, and no one is immune to like the suffering of the world. Yeah,
exactly. And you know, and the teachings of Buddha as well. Like now I'm like, Mom, I'm more of a Buddhist, like a
yes, yeah.
You know, because it's not a religion, it's not a dogma. a way of living, and it's a way of being in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And
That's so good.
Buddhism talks about, suffering and
Yes.
how you overcome suffering, right? And it's all in the mind. It's our thinking mind. It's our
monkey mind. Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So
I love Wayne Dyer's teachings about the monkey mind, and I also think that one of the teachings that I've really been privy to when it comes to him is that we all have a choice in our destiny. And I think that, when you think about like Buddhist practices about self-compassion and mindfulness and being able to eat slowly and being, in a monk meditation of the practice and pace of slowness, like even monks in monasteries do this now, or have done this, where it's almost like we've lost the art of being in presence with somebody, Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. The presence is your greatest gift to another person, your presence. And in such a busy world, right? Like time is something you can't buy with money.
No. No.
So when the greatest gift that you can give another person is your full attention and your presence. And one of my biggest teachers is Eckhart Tolle. I don't know if you've heard of him.
I've read The Power of Now. I haven't read The New World yet, though.
The New Earth?
I've yet to read that. New Earth.
Yes.
Obviously, I haven't read it.
No, it's my favorite book, and I
really
I read it many, many times, and every time I read it, it's one of those books that always give you something more. Every time you learn something more. So it's one of those books where if you wake up in the morning and you just any page and you read it, you pick a select, you read it, and you can just meditate on it, and you will just get new information. Like sometimes when I'm really blocked or really stuck, that's what I would do. But it's also something that I applied during the Ultimatum queer love.
No way.
Yes.
Which part?
The part where I left Mildred, and well, even during that living situation, every day I was practicing being present, because I don't want to be unconscious and, where you start saying things and insinuating or, the stuff that's happening. You want to see everything for what it is. What's the truth of it, right? And if the truth might be, oh, that person's having a bad day, or that person just didn't hear you correctly, or there's a kindness and forgiveness that comes into every interaction. So that's what I was trying to practice. That's something that I consciously wanted to do in a genre where the common interaction and the common conflict resolution is to put salt in each other's wounds, right? That's what you commonly see on reality TV. And I wanted that to be different. I wanted to show there's a different way of interacting with one another that shows compassion and love and forgiveness and heart. Because and that was one of the things that both me and Sam were like trying to bring in when we say we were trying to do the 5D thing in a 3D world. So the spiritual,
yes,
I don't know how it came across, but that at the changeover where you didn't see some of the stuff, but where I apologized when she said that I brought up a lot of her abandonment wounds because I left. And I wasn't going to bring in the stuff of what had happened in the past. I was going to be present. That was my intention. I meditated for a whole week. I was prepared for that night, and I wanted to bring love. And so the whole night I was sending love despite what was coming back at me.
That's so good.
And it was not easy.
That's so good.
But that's what we want to do if we're going to change anything in this world. If we're going to change any of the stuff that's going on that you see in the news, we have to change ourselves. We have to change, responses. So presence, compassion.
That's so good. Aussie, if we had more time, well, we will have more time because I'm talking to you guys soon. Anyways, no, don't apologize. I looked at the time. We talked for a while, didn't we?
Yeah.
Yeah. But thank you so much for coming on the show. I'm going to end here because I want to respect your time.